Okay. Okay, so everything seems to be started right now. And in the chat, can everybody see and hear us? Are there any problems here? I see that there are people in the chat that asked a lot of questions here already, but I think those might have started before the stream actually started. Hey. Everybody see and hear us? Are there any okay, perfect. Any problems here? I see there are people in the chat that asked a lot of questions here.
I think I'm getting an echo from your end from the stream actually YouTube. Started.
But I think, yeah, everybody can hear, see. Everybody got Samuel here.
Antoine, I think you just have to. I think you just have to mute the YouTube video on your end.
A lot of questions. Sorry, what's that here?
I'm getting an echo from your end from the YouTube.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's it. Sorry about that. Because I have the YouTube open and also got the management. Yeah, everybody can. Okay, that's it. Thank you, Kia. Okay, so perfect. We've got a lot of people in the comment section here. So hyped. I'm so hyped as well because we have an amazing guest today. So we have Kian Mansour, who's here with us today. He's a good friend of mine. He's a pioneer of modern Roux. He was the first ever to break a world record using the Roux method. So hello, Kian, and welcome to our live stream today.
Oh, hey, Antoine, thank you for the kind and warm introduction. It's an honor to be a guest on your live stream, and I'm looking forward to talking to you.
Yeah, that sounds great. So I think that maybe you want to give a tiny bit of an introduction about yourself first, and then I think what we want to do also, because I'm not sure how familiar people are with Roux here. So I think we want to maybe give like a 30-second introduction about like what Roux is, what's special about it. But first, talk a tiny bit about yourself, and then we can move into Roux as well, because I think that's important for those who might not understand it very much to get some context about what this is.
Yeah, for sure. Sounds good. So my name is Kian Mansour. I'm a Rubik's Cube speed solver from Canada. I started cubing probably 10 years ago now in 2014, and then fell in love with it, practiced a lot, ended up breaking a world record for one-handed solving in 2018, competed in a lot of competitions around the world, national championships, world championships. And I guess what I'm known most for in cubing is developing a lot of the resources online for pushing forward the Roux method. And for those of you that don't know, the Roux method is a way of solving the cube that's completely different from CFOP or the beginner method. So instead of making a cross and building the first two layers, then doing the last layer, in the Roux method, you make blocks. So you start with a block on the left, then a block on the right, then you solve four corners on the top, and lastly, you finish with the edges. So while this method was known probably 25 years ago, it wasn't really all that popular. There were only one or two top cubers in the world who used it. And taking inspiration from them, I decided to see whether that could be pushed further, and kind of pushed it on my own accord through solving as a cuber, but then also through developing resources on YouTube for others to learn from.
Mm-hmm. So I think something that that's also interesting maybe for viewers to know is that Kian and I actually are from the same hometown in Canada. And I broke the one-handed world record in 2015, and then Kian proceeded a couple of years later to then destroy the same world record as me. So
yeah, I think that's always really cool when there's like world records out of the same city. I think there's been a couple examples of that, like Skube in Poland, one-handed here. I think it's just also the competition aspect of seeing someone close by be good at an event, and then you want to compete with them as well.
Yeah. So do you think that I played a bit of an influence in you're doing one-handed, or do you think that
I definitely think so. I think there were other Roux cubers as well who thought one-handed had a lot of potential, especially Kevin Tengtor-Tharkul at the time. But also wanting to beat you was a good inspiration. I think you pushed me to practice and train that as well quite a bit.
That's good. I feel like I have some worth now still. So by the way, I see there's a lot of questions in the chat. We've got Fuzan, Samuel. We've got a lot of questions in there. We're gonna be keeping most of the questions for towards the end. So we have some questions about Roux versus CFOP, about giving courses as well, and about Sean's record. A lot of those things is things that we're going to be touching on during the live stream as well. So we're going to be keeping most of these questions towards the end, and see if we've touched them. Then we won't have to talk as much about them. But please feel free to keep the questions coming, and we'll definitely touch upon them. I've left at least the last 10 minutes or so for just specifically for questions. So make sure to stay on to the end, and we're going to be addressing your questions. So don't worry if about where us going through without touching them. We're going to talk about them later. So I think you touched a little bit, Kian, about like how you got into cubing. Do you want to like talk a little bit more about, for example, like when you got into cubing, why specifically you choose to use Roux as opposed to the regular method of CFOP, for example, and
Yeah,
like
for sure.
how that got going?
Yeah, so I guess I, in some sense, wanted to be different or unique, so I picked a less common method. I remember watching a lot of videos or reading like old speed cubing Wikipedia pages about all the different methods, whether it was CFOP, Roux, Petrus, ZZ. And for a while, I was kind of using all four methods and considering them and just weighing the pros and cons of each. And then I ended up just realizing that I don't like learning a lot of algorithms and I don't like rotating the cube. So I was kind of in between Roux and ZZ, and I ended up going with Roux at the end of that.
So it seems like at the beginning, you were already very good at like evaluating different methods, and you had like going through all the methods, you had a good understanding of what you thought was important. At that point, had you already been really in touch with the community and had studied cubing for a long time, or was it really just like from your own feelings of what you thought might be good?
Yeah, I don't think at that time I was like involved in any discussions with the community yet. I think it was mainly just based on watching YouTube and reading like I guess everything would have been on the speed cubing wiki back then. I definitely had progressed maybe down to like 30 seconds with the beginner method or CFOP or some early variant of it. And I managed to get a lot of my methods down to about 30 before committing to Roux. But I think I was just starting to notice my own strengths and weaknesses as well in terms of like my turn speed and my inefficiency with rotations. So I decided to sort of play to my strengths that showed up early on, rather than trying to improve my weaknesses of turning speed and rotations.
Mm-hmm. And I think that playing with those different methods also really paid off, because even if you spent all that time like trying different methods, you also improved really fast. Like if I remember correctly, at your very first competition, you got a sub 10 average, right?
I don't think it was a sub 10 average. I think I started cubing 2014, and then my first competition was 2015. And I think my first single was 9.8 or something, and the average would have been like high 10, low 11.
Mm-hmm. So getting started, I remember you coming to the competition I organized, of course.
Yeah.
And then there was the new kid, Penguins Don't Fly, coming in with the Roux.
Everybody was my old, yeah, what was that forum called? Speedcubers.
Speedsolving.com?
Yeah, that one. It's been so long.
Yeah, it's the old cubers. And I remember I used to spend more time sometimes on speed solving than actually speed solving.
Yep. Remember those days.
So from when you started cubing, do you want to talk about a few maybe key moments for you in cubing? I know that there were like a lot of kind of inflection points, I would say, in your cubing life, cubing history. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and kind of how you progressed and how things happened with you with cubing?
Yeah, for sure. I think the key moments were pretty much one a year from 2014 to let's say 2019. So 2014, picked up the cube, fell in love with it, practiced a lot all day, progressed pretty quickly. 2015, first competition that you organized. That's when I really started enjoying the competitive aspect and connecting with the community more and realizing that this is something I wanted to take more seriously. So that really pushed my progress as well. And then also I think in 2015 is when I connected with all the Roux solvers around the world, whether Kevin in California, Yuri down in Brazil, Ryan Przbaki at the time, I think he was living in Texas. And there were a couple European Rouxers at the time as well, like Louis de Mendonça. Connected with those.
Alex Lau had already stopped cubing, right?
Yeah, so Alex Lau was retired. I think it was mainly just us four at the time competing with Roux. So connected with them in 2015. We started learning things from each other, giving each other tips online. That pushed my progress a lot and kind of helped grow everyone's technique. Then started my YouTube channel, I think that same year in 2015. Then fast forward a year later, 2016, I think is when I started really improving quickly, at least in my home times. But that's when I started to notice I would have certain issues with getting nervous at competitions. I think that year was my first competition in Toronto. So obviously Bill Wang was there, all the other fast Toronto cubers. And I noticed I had trouble, competing against them and on a bigger stage. That would become a recurring theme going forward. And then 2017 is, I think, when kind of the bigger moments really started to show up. So that year is when World Championships was in Paris. So you and I were both there. And I think that's when I really entered the cubing scene as like a higher level cuber, where I won the first round of 3x3 actually. And that was my first, that was my first sub-7 average officially. And it was also the Canadian record at the time. And I just remember being like in shock that had became a reality. I'd always been kind of working towards those sorts of things, but I never really thought it would come to it. And I guess after that, it went downhill for the rest of the competition, not even making finals. But
would you say that getting that good average in the first round would actually might have been a bad thing?
I mean, perhaps. I guess it did place a lot of attention on me and a lot of pressure to do well in the subsequent rounds. And especially since like everyone in the international community was really acknowledging me right after that. It was like overwhelming compared to like no one really knows who I am to now all of a sudden like I'm projected to win.
And I think that at that point, a lot of people, you had been like posting videos and solves. A lot of people had like been skeptical.
Yeah.
And we're thinking, is this guy real? Like he doesn't get that good results in competitions, but he was posting like sub-7 average of 100.
Yeah,
which is
I guess my official results were, my official
Right.
results were pretty poor, but my improvement rate was quite rapid at home. So a couple people had doubts of whether I would ever, put a substantial performance together on the stage. But yes, to have that all happen at the same time kind of blew up in a lot of different ways. Obviously, I'm very grateful for all of it. But then afterwards, a lot of like opportunities opened up with sponsorships with Speed Cube Shop and Chi. Those helped me out a lot in terms of like travel and cubes and everything. And then I think only after 2017 Worlds is when I really started taking one-handed seriously. I'd already gotten down to like 11, 12 seconds without that much effort. And that's the moment I really realized that Roux has a lot of potential for one-handed. If I noticed like, wow, like I'm getting times that are in the top like 10 or 20 in the world without really practicing, maybe I could be really good at this if I practiced. And maybe that really doesn't, because I knew I was bad at one-handed. My turning wasn't good. My look ahead wasn't good. My technique overall was pretty weak, but the method was really providing that skill and that advantage over other cubers at the time. So I really did it because the method made it easy for me and I wanted to kind of prove a point.
Yeah. So that was about end of 2017 or so.
Yeah, I guess end of 2017 is when I realized this has a lot of potential for one-handed and I wanted to push that. So kind of switched over to fully practicing one-handed. And then 2018, again, at the competition in Ottawa, is where I broke the world record and brought it down to 9.54 for an average of 5. And I think that was kind of the fulfillment of what I'd like always dreamed of achieving in speed cubing. And again, that was another one of those moments where it was just pure shock and like amazement, disbelief that I'd even gotten to that point and that was a possibility, let alone a reality at that point. And I think that's where I kind of cemented Roux as being like a top tier one-handed method.
Yeah, for sure.
And I guess to finish the whole story, after 2018, that competition, I went to US Nationals, didn't do so well there, had fun, started connecting with the community more, made a lot of friends around the world. And then fast forward another year to 2019. At that point, I'd started university. Cubing became a bit more of a hobby and less of a competitive endeavor. And although my times were still pretty good on 3x3 and one-handed, I couldn't really put in the time that I wanted to. So by the time that World Championships 2019 came around that summer, when we went down to Australia, I'd hoped earlier in the year that I'd end up putting up a good performance, but I can't say I really put the full efforts that I wanted to in terms of practicing. So by the time I got to the competition, I started to realize like, well, maybe this is the end of my competitive speed cubing career for me. But then I kind of started to notice that my impact on the Roux community would endure, especially seeing Sean Villanueva there,
Yeah.
doing so well,
Yeah.
starting to break records. I think they were national records at the time, really pushed the boundaries on 3x3. And I think he got second place overall.
Second, right?
Yeah, second. So
Which
yeah,
is
that was a
crazy.
really beautiful moment, especially being paired with him in the finals. I think that was a kind of just passing on of the torch.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that was the kind of the end of competitive cubing for me in 2019.
Now, I want to note something as well, because you said that in 2019 you're already kind of starting to get slow. But in the last couple of days, I've been looking at a few videos and such, and I know like we're going to talk more about it later. But Sean Villanueva got an 8.0? I forget.
Yeah.
8.09. Sorry, one-handed world record average, which totally destroyed the original average, and it's like a crazy record for a lot of people. In 2019, you had a video on YouTube where you have also a low 8, almost the same average, and that was 6 years ago. And that's when you said you're already getting slow. What's that?
Yeah.
I think it goes to show how much ahead of your time you were.
I think I peaked probably late 2018, early 2019. And I think my global average, if there's such a thing, would have been somewhere between like 8.6 and 8.9. And for some reason, the Roux method with one-handed has a lot of variation, which it doesn't in two-handed. So people have gotten crazy, like low 7 average of 5, sub 7 average of 5. And I think at that time, like I had also gotten like a 7.05 average of 5 stack matted. Not on camera, obviously, but
that's not still unofficial world record, is it?
No. I'm pretty sure Fahmi and Sean have sub 7 at this point. But
okay.
I think in terms of being ahead of my time, I think I was the only one back then who had practiced one-handed Roux that much. And it just took a couple of years for people to catch on and start putting that effort in. And once they did, then they blew past me.
Yeah, I know like in one-handed in general, starting 2017 or so, I always thought the one-handed world record is really behind its time, and it really should be way better. Like when I got it in 2015 at 1087, I think that's when like the average was on point. But then after that, going forward a few years, everybody was getting so much faster, and then you in particular so much faster at home than the world record. The world record always seemed to be like 2 seconds slower than, or 2 or 3 seconds slower than the unofficial world record, and that seemed to be silly to me. But now I think we're at a point where we're starting to like get back to averages, which I think are reasonable, and I think that's finally a good thing.
Yeah, we're starting to get there. I think 7.5 in the next year or two is going to be very expected and very normal.
Next year, right?
Yeah, and I guess the one other thing I forgot to mention is at the time I didn't really know it, but when I formally retired from competitive cubing in 2019, I didn't expect to make a little comeback in at North American Championships a couple of years later, but that ended up happening. Yeah, that was a lot of fun, and I was really just grateful for that.
Yeah, so for those who don't know what Kian is talking about, so in 2019 he basically retired from cubing. And then at least 3 years later,
yeah, 2022, pretty much exactly 3 years later.
Yeah, you just came back, decided to, you weren't really practicing at home, right? You just showed up at the North American Championships and won one-handed, right?
Yeah.
I remember seeing those results. It was really crazy to see you back.
Yeah, I think the one thing I was missing from my competitive career was a major championship win. I'd never done well at any nationals. I'd never even gone to a Canadian nationals, just the American one. I'd never really done well at any worlds, didn't have a worlds podium. So winning that North American Championship 3 years later was really the cherry on top there.
Yeah. And it had to happen, after you retired because you weren't nervous anymore.
Exactly. I was like, I'm slower, but I'm not nervous. So maybe this will add up to something.
Right. So what kind of place do you say that cubing will have in your life going forward? Do you still want to keep going to competitions, or you want to maybe still keep a little bit of a place in the Roux community and help people, or what do you think? Because I know that you have a lot of other things in your life as well that maybe we can touch on for a couple minutes. But first, talk about what do you think about cubing and what place it'll have in your life going on?
Yeah, in terms of what place I expect it to have in my life, I think I'll always keep cubes around the house or around like in my bag when I go around. It's fun to like fidget with a cube, play around, do a couple solves once a week, do an average of 12 or just something. I still really enjoy solving. I don't really enjoy practicing hundreds of sols anymore, but I don't expect ever to fully forget how to cube. I expect it to be just a casual thing that I carry on out of enjoyment. In terms of like returning to competition, I am pretty busy now with like my master's degree. I'm doing a master's in organic chemistry, so I spend a lot of time in the lab. Outside of that, a lot of time in the gym, coaching. I've got a lot going on, and pretty much every weekend is jam-packed. So if there's ever a competition that's super convenient or like brings a lot of my friends together or is in a nice place to visit that just lines up nicely in terms of timing, I'd love to go. I think maybe 2024 North American Champs is in
Minnesota, right?
Minnesota, is it? It's somewhere.
Was that last year?
No, I don't think it's Minnesota. I think it might be like somewhere in the Northwest.
Yeah.
Is it Oregon, like Portland, or is it like?
I really don't remember. Right?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Or no, wait, 2024.
Anybody in the chat know?
Or wait, do I mean 2025? Worlds is next year, right?
Yeah, 2025 Worlds is in Seattle.
Or Seattle. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah, so maybe I'll go to Worlds next year just to like hang out, compete for fun, see everyone.
That would be great. I'd like to see you there.
Yeah, but if there's a local competition for fun, I might show up. Other than that, I don't really intend on practicing, but that's what I said last time, so maybe it'll happen again. Other than that, in terms of like my involvement in the Roux community, maybe once a year I'll make a video if some new ideas come to mind. Every now and then I have cool thoughts, or just like now that I'm slower, I have a bit more time to think. So some new ideas that I hadn't thought of before might pop up when I'm solving, and I'll just put a video out and hopefully people can find some utility in it. Other than that, I love keeping connected with the community, whether it's Sean or Yuri or any of the guys. We have a Discord that's awesome. If anyone's interested in Roux, you should join the Roux Discord. And
I'd like to just
there's great advice, there's great community there. Everyone shares all the resources. There's massive amounts of resources now, more than I ever could have imagined. But yeah, I enjoy taking a sort of backseat and like just cheering people on, giving advice when needed, taking a look at things.
So I related to that. We can talk a little bit more about that later, but we have a question. Are you considering giving courses with Cubing Life Academy? I think that's something you can consider there, Kian.
Ooh, I mean, I'm not going to say no right now, but it's definitely something to think about.
Maybe if you're interested in taking a course with Kian, then you definitely get in touch with me. And once we have enough people, maybe we can convince Kian to take it up.
Yeah, maybe you'll be able to convince me. I won't say no right now. I'll be open to convincing someday.
Yeah, for now, anyways. So I just wanted to do a little quick ad break. So this stream, it's being putting up by Cubing Life Academy, of which I am the co-founder. So we have cube courses in which we teach a lot of things related to cubing, a lot of different events, a lot of different levels. So our main thing that we have is like online live group courses. So you're paired with a teacher. Most of our advanced courses are with Tommy Cherry. So 3x3, blindfolded, and clock. And so you're essentially paired in a small group, and then you do structured courses online. So you spend 1 or 2 hours with Tommy and with the group every week, where he goes through really structured material to bring you step by step through the improvement process. Everybody in the class is of about the same level, and so you get to discuss with each other. You get to discuss with Tommy live every single week, and you also get homework, and it's on a consistent basis. So you really get to be able to improve consistently. And so if you're interested in any of those courses, as I said, we have advanced courses with Tommy Cherry, as well as more intermediate courses with Benjamin Kyle. There's a bit of an overview on the sidebar. You can also visit our website. If you'd like to sign up for any of those courses, definitely go on our website, and you can use the code below, KianCLA5, and you get 5% off. So definitely use that coupon, and you can help out Kian as well if you use that coupon. And if you have any other questions, then you can ask in the chat. You can send us a message. And if you're interested in a Roux course, then definitely contact us, and we can try and convince Kian to come on too. So that's a little blurb there. I think, Kian, you mentioned a little bit about kind of things that you have outside of cubing. Maybe do you want to I know we're a little bit late on time. Maybe you want to give a talk 30 seconds to a minute or so about what you're doing other than cubing. I'm sure people are quite interested about that as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I'll give a quick overview, but I started my undergraduate degree in biomedical science, realized I like chemistry a lot more than biology, switched into medicinal chemistry in the last couple of years. So focusing a lot more on how chemical reactions work, how to design new chemical reactions, and how to use those chemical reactions to make useful things like pharmaceutical drugs to help cure diseases. And then did some research in that area, then worked for a year as a research associate, and now I started my master's last year. So I'm about a year into my master's in organic chemistry, working on developing new chemical reactions to help put complex molecules together in a way that's more efficient and more sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of the day-to-day, sorry?
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so in terms of day-to-day, for me, that looks like I get to go to the lab on my own time, kind of, and focus on my research. I don't have any courses left. I finished all my courses already, so pretty much spending my time in the lab, running experiments, trying to improve my reaction and demonstrate that it's useful.
Mm-hmm. So mad scientist Kian coming up. And I know that a lot of things that you, I mean, in the last few years anyways, a lot of people also know you for doing a lot of powerlifting.
Mm-hmm.
And do you want to share a little bit about kind of what you are doing with that, what you had been doing with that, where things are right now?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I started lifting weights in 2017, just in high school with friends. And then once I started university in 2018, I joined the powerlifting club here, got a coach, started getting into lifting heavy things, squat, bench, and deadlift. Ended up competing in that in 2019. I think it was a week before the Australia World Championships. Or no, it was a week before the NCR meet competition. So that was I competed in 2019 in powerlifting, and then kept working out and training for it over COVID. Then eventually, as the powerlifting club here grew and I became a more senior member, I ended up taking on more responsibilities as a coach and helping out newer lifters to get stronger. And then as the years went by, the coaching role kind of grew, and my interest in lifting for my own sake kind of diminished. And as with cubing, it became a sort of more a mentorship opportunity for me to be able to help out the younger lifters. And now that's kind of how it is. I still lift and go to the gym pretty often, but I think my bigger investment now is definitely coaching. I think I have 7 athletes right now. I used to have 12 to 15 or so, but I think I'm more comfortable with a smaller group now. So a lot of coaching work every week, but I really enjoy it.
So you've already have experience coaching. Sounds like it would be cubing coaching as well, right?
Maybe.
We also have a question here that's what is your bench press PR?
Yeah, so my bench press PR is 355 pounds. Actually, I hit it in 2020, weighing 198.
Okay. Wow.
But then I also hit it a couple months ago, weighing 174. So after all those years, I finally hit a double body weight bench press.
Damn. Thank Kian. You're not only good in cubing, definitely.
I think it just goes to show that with enough repeated practice over many years, you can get pretty good at things.
Yeah, you need to know that the way to improve, and once you know how to improve, whether it's cubing or other things, it definitely has an effect on multiple different aspects, right?
Yeah, just rinse and repeat, apply the same practice to other avenues, and improvement will come with time.
Yeah. So do you want to talk a little bit more maybe about Roux? I'm sure a lot of people are interested in Roux. I also noticed here we have, did you see that Cubehead is planning to learn Roux? He posted a comment on Sean's world record.
Oh, no, I didn't see it.
What's that?
I didn't see it.
Yeah. So what kind of advice would you have maybe for Cubehead or anybody else who wants to learn Roux? Go maybe at different levels. Do you want to start maybe from like when you're first really starting to get into Roux, if you're thinking about maybe going into Roux, what kind of advice you'd have, and then like touch a little bit about like different advice that you'd have for different levels of improvement really quick?
Yeah. So I guess to start out, if you're interested in learning the Roux method or interested in deciding whether to switch, I'd say just go with the method that you think is more fun. I think both can be very high level at many different events. You could maybe consider whether you want to focus more on 3x3 and one-handed or more on like big cubes. But those kind of specific things aside, I'd say just go with whichever method you believe in, whichever method appeals more to you, and whichever you think you'd find more enjoyment out of practicing. Once you decide to switch to Roux, I think the best advice I can give is to watch a lot of YouTube videos, whether it's example solves or like the how to get why you're not sub 20 with Roux series that I did with Kevin, or just connecting on the Roux Discord. all those things are going to help develop your block building skills. I think that's the main weakness that people have when they switch, is kind of having that logic of how to think about putting the first two blocks together in a kind of block building style rather than putting it together in pairs. So yeah, thinking about a ton of example solves. And then also there's Roux trainers, where these are linked in the Discord as well, where essentially they give you efficient solutions to various block cases, and that can help you develop your kind of thought process and pattern recognition there. Beyond that, I guess learning algorithms can come at any stage, whether it's two-look CMLL or one-look CMLL. I think a lot of people can pick that up quickly. And then I guess to complete it at the beginner level, for LSE, I'd say don't worry so much about EOLR or anything like that until later on. It's good to have an understanding of what it is and how it works, and so you can pick it up intuitively as you go. But I wouldn't worry about trying to learn it in any sort of organized manner until a more advanced stage.
So you mentioned the Roux Discord a couple times. Would it be possible to send a link as well?
Yes, for sure. I'm not too well versed in Discord, so maybe I could send it to you afterwards, and you can add it to the description. Or
yeah, sure. So everybody who's listening here, whether it's live or the replay, we'll put that in the description once it's over, once the stream's over, so you can go and check out the Roux Discord if you're interested in learning Roux, to have all of those resources that Kian mentioned, as well as everybody else who's in there who can help you, right?
Exactly. Yep, I've actually got the link now, so I guess I'll drop it in the chat for now.
Okay, perfect.
There we go.
Okay. So you mentioned beginner. Now let's already started, like, for probably my level right now. So I have also been learning Roux. I'm probably like beginner intermediate at this point. So being able to solve the first block relatively efficiently. And then I guess the next thing then would be to try and one look the block, for example, right?
So I think then moving from beginner to intermediate, maybe you've improved your block building, you're starting to see more efficient solutions. I think the next step to really improve that fluidity throughout the solve is to focus on that inspection and try to plan the whole first block. Since that, gives you the mental capacity to start looking at the second block. And once you have a bit more time to think about the second block, then you can be more block buildy in your logic. So it's really a positive feedback loop. I've always been really big on emphasizing the importance of inspection. So once you have the basic concepts down, improving your inspection is always going to give you more time to process and just improve every aspect of your solve, both the turning fluidity and also your efficiency, since you'll have more time to think about things before they happen.
And so generally speaking, would you say maybe once you're at about 15 to 20 seconds, you should definitely be able to predict your first block in inspection? Or what kind of times would you say, more or less? Like, I know it's hard to say.
I'd say maybe 15 is a good cutoff. At that point, you should definitely be planning your whole first block.
And then the next step in inspection would be like the first edge, right?
Yeah. So a lot of people have misconceptions that you have to like plan how you're going to solve the first edge for the second block. But the more important thing is to know where it's going to end up on the cube, so that you track it as it's moving around, and then you can potentially influence it while you solve the first block. Or you can set it up with other pieces. You could set that edge up with a corner. You could move it around in relation to other pieces. It just gives you a lot more flexibility if you know where that piece is going to end up, to plan more efficient solutions in advance.
And that often comes up by doing like one or two extra moves when doing the first block, right? You do
exactly.
Like moves in there to influence something to make the second block a little bit easier.
We'll see a couple examples of that actually once we get to Sean's reconstructions. He does a really good job of that on I think 2 or 3 solves, but it's really usually just one move, a U prime, a U, or an R, and that'll have a drastic impact on the efficiency of the second block.
And then at that point, maybe probably getting around the 10 seconds or so range, and then how about EOLR? So EOLR, for those who are less familiar with it, when you're doing Roux, you're doing the last 6 edges. And when you're doing the last 6 edges, one thing that you can do is to position the right and left edge at the bottom, all the while orienting all of the edges. So I think maybe we should give an example here.
Yeah, I guess I can try to see if I can get something. Okay, so I guess this is not a good example. Wow, drops the cube right away. You can tell I'm rusty. Yeah, this is definitely not a good example. Let's
No
try
worries.
something different. Okay, yeah, this is a better example. So, I guess maybe pin my cubing camera.
Yep, should be good.
Okay, perfect. So, let's check the screen. It's I don't think it's pinned yet on the stream.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a lag in the screen.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah. So essentially, the first step of the last six edges phase of the solve is first to orient all six edges and then to place the left and right edges in their respective spots. Now, EOLR is a technique that's a bit more advanced where you kind of combine phase one and phase two and do a couple moves to kind of set that up in a more efficient way. So for each orientation case, there's several different ways of solving it. And the whole concept of EOLR is you just pick the better way to do it so that you get an easier next step. So here, I know I can either do MU prime M or MUM or M prime U prime M or M prime UM. So I essentially have four options to set up this orientation case, or I could do it from this angle, or I could do it from this angle. But I know that if I do it from this angle, it'll give me this arrow that's special because we have this edge in the back, this edge here. And then at the same time that we solve orientation, both of the edges end up on the bottom. And that makes for a really quick second step of LSE where you can solve them directly.
Mm-hmm. And so that actually, when do you think would be appropriate to learn EOLR? I know that for me, I've learned all of EOLR, and that I maybe it's a little bit early. I find that EOLR is one of my biggest weaknesses right now, especially recognition and like thinking of the owl. And it seems like every solve there's a big pause. Like I get to the last six edges, and then I'm okay. I have to take a look, and I have to think, and then it takes a while, and ends up being much slower to use EOLR than not. When do you think it would be appropriate to learn it? I think maybe earlier might be better because you get more chance to practice it. But what would you think about that?
I think it could be learned at any stage. I know people have learned it. Like Sean didn't learn it until very late, until after he was sub 7, I think. I didn't really learn it until I was like sub 8 and I was pushing to sub 7. But I've always recommended that once you get down to like 12 or so seconds is when you want to take it more seriously. And I think what you're describing there is a common pitfall that people fall into, which is treating it as algorithms that require recognition. Whereas I like to see it more as kind of an intuitive sequence where you just have this toolbox of different ways of solving each orientation case. And if you see it fast enough, you just do the right one to set up to EOLR. But if you don't see it fast enough, your hands automatically just do any random one that's the most comfortable. And I guess this ties back to the previous step where having good CMLL knowledge also helps. Since there's only 40 of them or 42, a lot of Roux solvers develop a kind of intuition of how the CMLL algorithms affect the edges. So a lot of the times when we're just turning during CMLL, we start thinking about what the EOLR case is going to be, and that helps quite a bit. And I guess the last piece of advice I have there is, other than just treating it intuitively, I'd say the way to learn it is go through my video series about it, then go to the EOLR trainer that's linked in the Discord. I think Tao Yu is the one who made that, but essentially it just gives you a different EOLR scramble. You can filter it by which set it's from, and then you just use keyboard arrows to solve it. It's a lot easier on your hands than solving the cube because it scrambles itself and it gives you the optimal solution right after. So just sitting down with that for like a half hour a day can go a long way.
Something that I think, what do you think about this though? Like when I've been practicing EOLR, what I try to do is I essentially just do everything. I mean, because obviously I want to use it more for one-handed, so I just do everything with one hand. I scramble with one hand and I solve with one hand. I know a lot of people have problems getting used to moves and moves one-handed. So that's somebody that we had somebody ask about this question, how to get used to M moves. That's kind of what I've been trying to do, like doing M moves as much as possible with one hand. So when doing EOLR, just like scrambling and solving everything with one hand, just doing as much as possible. My hand will hurt, but I know that that's normal, and that means that I'm getting better. What do you think about that and about getting good at M moves one-handed?
Yeah, I think that's a valid approach as well. Again, I think it depends on the individual. A lot of people, I guess, end up with that hand pain from doing all those M moves. And as you said, it's an important kind of soreness to get because then you recover and your fingers get stronger. But at a certain point, your hands are going to die faster than your brain does.
That's true.
So for that, you can, once your hand gives out is when you should turn to the simulation or the trainer online and just use, instead of using your left hand to solve the cube, use your right hand and like the arrow keys, and that'll save your muscles a little bit. and kind of train you mentally a lot faster. Especially because you can kind of just close your eyes and spam buttons and not have to look at it just to test how well you know the case. But yeah, in terms of getting good at M moves, having a well set up cube is really important. Typically, faster cube, weaker magnets, that helps a lot. On most cubes, I can't really do M moves. I have a very specific preference for it. But yeah, other than that, it just comes with practice and having a cube that's set up well for it.
And that also goes into, I think, a topic I wanted to mention as well about getting good at one-handed specifically using Roux. I know you made a video at some point. The first thing is really getting good at Roux in general, right? Being able to solve efficiently. That's kind of what we've talked about so far. And then once you're fairly good at Roux, that's when really there's a few things that you can start doing to get good at Roux one-handed. So I know we're late already. Want to touch really quickly on maybe Roux one-handed and what you think is important for that?
Sure, yeah. I think I completely forgot about that video, but now that you bring it up, I maybe remember certain things I said in it. Once you're good at Roux two-handed, then to improve at Roux one-handed, there's only really two things. It's really just, or maybe three. So there's turning, so you have to get good at turning, so turning in general, and then M moves is the added challenge. Then you have to get
B moves and such.
B moves and such, yeah, those are a bit of a unique challenge as well. M moves, B moves, those sorts of things. Once you're good at turning, then there's the efficiency aspect of adapting your solutions to first block and second block to be a little bit more finger trick friendly for one-handed. So second block is actually a lot easier one-handed, since with two-handed you have like wrist overturn issues. You can't do that many consecutive R moves before your wrist runs out. But for one-handed, you can do unlimited Rs and you can keep.
Right.
So often second block solutions end up being more efficient one-handed than two-handed and more ergonomic. But for first block, on a lot of times, you'll find people using more R moves, more U moves for one-handed than two-handed. That's just something you pick up. And the last thing is really just adapting your CMLL algorithms. I think there's, out of the 42, maybe there's 10 to 15, maybe 20 that would require relearning or learning one-handed specific algorithms just to make them a better, more efficient and ergonomic to execute. But other than that, it just comes down to practice. Those are like the three main skills, and then it's just rinse and repeat.
Yeah, and if you're interested in Roux one-handed algs, I know for sure that there's some on your website, probably on the Discord as well.
Yeah, so mine are a little bit outdated. There's more new ones that people have found, but everything on the Roux Discord, there's like, I think there's a channel on there called like resources, and then there's a pinned document that just opens this big like Dropbox or something, where there's just like a big Google Doc. You can just click through. There's links to everything. And
okay, great. You did not put the link in the what's it called?
I definitely did. If you scroll back to
anyways, we'll put it in the, for sure we'll have it in the description later.
Yeah, I'll message it to you as well.
Okay, sounds good. And so I think that we also want to touch on the Rouxvolution. So what does Rouxvolution mean to you, Kian?
Yeah, so Rouxvolution is a term I kind of made up. It's essentially a combination of the words roux and revolution.
So you're actually the author of that term, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you didn't know that. Okay. Yeah. So I guess in 2017 or 2018 is when, I started breaking records and Roux started really blowing up. My YouTube channel was growing. A lot of cubers around the world are making a lot of contributions to the development of the method, to breaking records, getting faster. And we noticed this kind of like a bit of an uprising in the Roux community. And since this is a little bit funny, but since it kind of like got reinvigorated at World Championships in Paris, it kind of had a bit of like a French Revolution vibe to it. And then like Gilles Roux is French, who invented the method, and he was there. And then everything was just pointing towards a revolution per se, of like overthrowing the CFOP hierarchy. And I just kind of started saying, oh yeah, guys, the Rouxvolution is coming. Like all the records are going to be Roux in a couple of years. And then eventually later that year, I think I like made my YouTube banner, like the Rouxvolution is coming. And then I made a couple videos. I think like I was keeping my one-handed solve secret. Then I said, I like dropped a video 2 weeks before the competition. And then I said like the Rouxvolution is coming. And it was like a sub-9 average of 10, 12 or something. I don't remember, but it kind of caught on from that point. And then every time someone new would pick up Roux, or people would just want to spread the message about the benefits of the Roux method, they ended up using that term. So I guess I'm really happy with how that caught on, but it's only grown since then. Even when I retired, It's great to see that there's so many more cubers around the world, in Asia, across South America, Europe. A lot of the fastest cubers in a lot of different communities are using the Roux method now, and they all embrace the whole Rouxvolution word. So I think that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I know at World's 23, 2023 in Korea when I went, there were people that were handing out like Rouxvolution leaflets.
Oh, no way. I didn't even know about that. Yeah.
So, like on every table, they were just handing them
Whoa,
out to everyone.
that's huge. That's crazy to like think that I'm just some kid in Ottawa and I just like made up a word and then
And
I
created a
just
Rouxvolution.
yeah, and then all of a sudden there's like people in at World Championships in Korea handing out leaflets. It's just like such an honor to be a part of that, or at least a small
Yeah.
part.
But I think one thing that I also want to know, do you think that now compared to, let's say, 5 or 10 years ago, do you think that there is a higher proportion, like a higher proportion of people that use Roux that compared to CFOP?
I definitely
Or
think there is. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
because yeah, go ahead.
I think back then it would have been maybe like one person at a competition.
Yeah,
Now I think it's like depending on the size of the competition, it might be, 3 to 5 at a local competition. Um, yeah, so I think it's increased from probably below 5% to maybe closer to that 5 to 10%.
okay.
I'm just guessing here, but that's kind of my
Yeah,
sense
yeah,
of it.
I mean, it's also hard for you as well because you haven't been to many competitions lately, so it's hard to
Yeah, it's hard to gauge, but
really
I guess
say,
I
right?
went to like two. I went to one in 2022, one in 2023.
Yeah. And I know here, like, so for those who don't know, I live in China right now, and at competitions here, it's very, very rare to see Roux.
Hmm.
So I only know of like two people who use Roux.
Yeah,
And so typically I'd say like 99, at least 99% of people use CFOP.
yeah,
And I don't know if it's like a regional thing as well. Like, well, often I get like, because I've been learning Roux lately and practicing a little bit, and people have been asking me like, why are you using Roux? Like all the top solvers use CFOP. Clearly Roux is bad.
yeah.
But what would you say to those people?
Yeah, so I'd say you definitely bring up a point in that maybe it's a regional bias. I think in Canada, there's a lot more Roux solvers. Even in the US, there's pretty big Roux communities in both countries, and that's where I've competed the most. And even at World Championships, obviously, there's a lot of like diverse nationalities showing up. But so maybe I'm high in my estimate. But especially in China, I think there might be like language barrier issues where they haven't had access to some of the Roux resources that are mostly in English. I
Mhm.
know that a couple people have asked me over the years, whether it's from China or from India, whether they can like translate some of my videos and put like voiceovers over them in different languages, upload them on different sites or that sort of thing. And I've like heard about that over the years, so I think that's a great avenue. Um, but yeah, I think like once people has started paying attention more to one-handed, and especially with Sean's recent world record, and looking at just the top 20, people will see that it's I don't want to say majority Roux, but like pretty much half Roux at this point. I think it's yeah, pretty much half Roux in the top 20 of one-handed. So for
Yeah,
one-handed, I think most people, especially when they hear that like a lot of the
for sure.
CFOP solvers are trying it out, and a lot of the high level CFOP solvers are saying that Roux is better. Um, the people are now catching on that okay, like it's kind of the better method for one-handed. But for 3x3, I'd say they're still pretty close. I really just think that the reason the higher level people use CFOP is because those just happen to be the people who've put in the most hours of practice. I think
Yeah,
if someone put the same amount of effort into Roux, it would be neck and neck. Um, yeah, that's kind of how I see it.
yeah, and the way that I see it as well is considering, let's say, 95% of people use CFOP and only 5% of the people use Roux. The fact that there's even one person in the top 10 that uses Roux already means that Roux is at least as good as CFOP, right?
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
like statistically speaking, it's definitely not much worse in any
Hmm.
case.
Yeah, that's probably what it is for 3x3. But then for
And for
one-handed,
one hand specifically,
it's
right?
just better.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's very key because so few people, so much fewer people use Brew, but they're like dominating the top 10 for
Hmm.
example. But I think that's also something that at least in China, not a lot of people like pay attention to one-handed.
Yeah.
Despite like, because in one-handed is who is the national record holder in China? I know like Zhou Heng might have the national. I think he might
Yeah.
have the
Yeah. Yeah.
national.
948.
Yeah, and then there's also like at least one
That's
other.
Roux. So
Yeah, in
kind of
using Roux,
funny.
and then there's also at least Wen Tao who, but I mean, Zhou Heng is not in China, so they might not know him as much.
Yeah.
And then there's also Wen Tao, who's like also like low 10,
Hmm.
who uses Roux, like maybe even sub 10. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think
Maybe
the other
it's
bias is like China's done incredibly well in 3x3 in the past 5 years.
yeah,
So maybe that's why that event is valued more.
Yeah, and nobody like in the top, probably even top 50 uses Roux in China for one hand, for two hand. But yeah, so I think that's something that's interesting, and I think that the Rouxvolution is still coming. Maybe a little bit slower than expected, but definitely
3x3 will take some years, but one-handed is definitely there now with the second world record.
Yeah, we have a lot of comments here, and people in the chat saying like, what do you think are the limits for? Always those questions. What are the limits for like two-handed, one-hand? I know every year the limits keep getting updated and they keep going down.
Yeah, even some of the earlier questions were asking like whether I can reflect on my Roux versus CFOP talk in 2018 that I did or that sort of thing. I honestly think I still stand by it. I think the way I analyzed it was pretty objective. I think I considered the different factors of efficiency, move count, ergonomics, and I still think they're pretty good estimates for both CFOP and Roux. Obviously, the biggest limitation is that it's not really accounting for improvements in efficiency in terms of like more block building in CFOP. I kind of gave estimates for that, but I don't think they were perfect. But I do think neck and neck, they can both be probably sub 5 global average on 3x3, probably low 7 global average one-handed. I think Roux can be low 7 global average one-handed. I think CFOP can be high 7, low 8. I don't think CFOP can be low 7 one-handed.
Yeah.
But I definitely think Roux can get to low 7.
So you think for two hands, it's like more or less neck and neck, one hand. Roux still has a bit of an advantage at least, right?
I would say so, yeah. I think whatever numbers I put together in 2018, I think I stand by those.
Okay. Do you have maybe we can find a link for that and we can put it in the description as well.
Yeah, I'll dig that up.
Okay, so I think if you have any other questions about like Rouxvolution, you can definitely leave them there. I think we don't have much time left. We want to analyze Sean's solves as well. I don't know, Kian, would you be fine if we stayed like a few minutes later, or are you?
A few minutes should be fine, yeah.
Okay, so I want to make sure that we at least like go through an analysis of Sean's solves before it would be.
I actually planned them out too, so I hope that won't take too long.
Okay, sounds amazing. So I will share my screen right now because I have them open here. Okay, so can you see my screen here right now?
Yep.
Okay, so I have these the video and reconstructions open. So if you don't know recon.nz, that's well, from what I hear, that's where all the all the cool kids put their reconstructions nowadays.
Actually, maybe yeah, I still see it.
Okay, like it's in full screen,
no
problem. Okay. Is this the first one?
Yeah. I think it just plays the whole video.
Yeah, I know. Originally, I had set them up. Okay, there we go. So we're going to take a look at the solves first, and then Kian, do you have the scrambles already? You can.
I have everything ready. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's go take a look at the solve first.
Can you mute the video?
Yeah. I'll mute the video and restart the solve here. There we go.
Actually, maybe after this one, we won't show the video. I don't think it's showing up too well on the stream.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I think we'll just let this play out, and then we'll switch to just reconstructions. Because I think the delay of the stream versus the YouTube video is I'm like watching the stream back, and it's not looking too nice.
Okay, then no problem. Anyways, there's the video. I'll put a link in. I'll put a link in here in the chat, and you can go check out the video as well while we're doing the reconstructions right before that. But now let's just go straight into the reconstructions.
Yep. So if you guys haven't heard yet, Sean Villanueva, an incredible Roux solver from the Philippines, recently broke the one-handed world record with an average of 8.94. 8.09, which is 8.09, which is almost a whole second and a half faster than my record back in 2018. So 6 years later, the young fellow brought it down by a second and a half compared to the last Roux world record. And I think that beat the previous recent record of, what was the previous one? 8.2 or so by...
no, the previous was still like 8.6.
Oh, 8.6, yeah. Max Park's previous record was 8.6. So Sean dropped it over half a second, which is also a little reminiscent of the way I broke the record. So I thought we'd take this opportunity to analyze the solves and give some insight. Hopefully you guys learn from it. And maybe if Sean sees this, he'll also appreciate the critiques of the solves as well. I know a long time ago, I gave some feedback on his solves on my YouTube channel. And this is a great full circle moment where now I'm looking at his world record. So
yeah, and sorry to interject. If you want to follow along with the scrambles as well, I have a link in the chat as well. You can go see the reconstructions, which has the scrambles. You can also follow along with the reconstruction moves there as well. So you can take a look at that. I'll give you like a second to open up the link if you want to take a look, and then we can go and start. I'll scramble my cube as well so that I can follow along here.
Perfect. And do we have can everyone see my cube that's centered? I think, yeah, you have to pin my cube there.
Yeah, your cube should be pinned, although I have myself pinned as well.
Or maybe spotlight the cube.
Oh, how do we do that? Let's see. I'll try this. Spotlight for everyone.
Here, I pinned it now.
Okay. So this should be good.
Okay, my bad for the echo. Okay, we're good now.
Okay. So the first thing is Z2.
Yeah, so this is the first scramble. I'll take you guys through it. Hopefully this is going to show up. I'll just wait for the stream to start looking at it.
Yeah, so for context as well, Sean does white-yellow Roux. So
okay, perfect. Yep,
bottom.
So we're good to go. I'll get started. So this is the first solve. He had a very fluid first two blocks. He locked up a little on the CMLL, and then he had a fluid LSC to finish, and it was an 8.9 second solve. So we'll see this solution now. So we see we have this red-green solved. We have this pair that goes with it. So these two are going to line up and go there. And he's going to solve them with RUR prime to put it here, and then D prime to put them there. The other pair is this one right here, the blue-red corner with the blue-red corner edge here. So he's going to put this into the back with R, and then swing this around and then solve it. Actually, he's going to put the edge down first. So he's going to bring the edge here, flip it to there to be blue, and then match the corner with it. And I'll show you a real... Sorry?
Yeah, actually, go ahead. There's something I want to... Or no, I'll say now first. So the first thing that I will actually see in this scramble is the edge, the blue-red edge, and the corner. Like, if you do M2, it pairs them up straight away.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that I would see. And it would... I don't know, maybe Sean didn't see it, or maybe I didn't see something here. But for me, that would be the more... efficient solution. But let's first go ahead with what he has, and then maybe we can...
So as Antoine noticed, these two are like a R2 or an M2 away from being solved. So I guess you could do an M2 and then an R wide U R wide prime to bring these down here while preserving that. However, starting a solve with M2 is pretty ugly, and one-handed especially, since you would have to pick it up in table abuse. And also, the other option is like R2 B prime to pair these down here, then put this over there. So if it was two-handed, I'd do one of those solutions. I'd do either M2 RUR prime or R2 B prime. But in the case of one-handed, I really like his solution because it's kind of like a RUR prime U prime, and then the rest is very fast too. So let's get into it. And this is also a really good case of the DR influencing, if I remember correctly. So RUR prime to put this down here, D prime to solve it, and at the same time you do U prime, and now you just have this pair. So R wide 2 to put the edge in the back, U match that up, R in the back. Now all that's left is a B prime, but Sean saw that this DR edge is misoriented, and the easy thing to do here is just a U prime, so that now when you do the B prime to solve the first block, this just goes and gets solved, and that's a really easy way to influence it. Then for the square here, he solved. This is something I really liked as well. He noticed this corner was white on top, so when he does R to solve DR, it's blue now. And he noticed that this was in the back, which is really good look ahead. This is a hard piece to notice, and then he immediately went into solving that in the back, like this. Then he solved this pair in the front, which is very standard, just CFOP style. Takes it out, solves it like that. Then for CMLL, it's this case, so it's pretty standard algorithm, just like this. Now for LSC, he also did something really cool here. So as I mentioned, we typically solve the left and right edges, but he actually solved the front and back edges, which is an advanced technique called UFUB. So he went like this. So arrow pointed in the back like that. And then this edge with that edge.
Like an advanced technique? Because I think that's just like the standard solution, isn't it?
So typically it's easier to solve. Typically, it's easier to solve the left and right just because the unique colors, orange and red, stand out compared to the sea of blue and green. But solving these two like this, the UFUV in that sense, then kind of offsets your last step to make that easier to recognize. So the advanced way is to consider both left, right, and front, back, and do whichever one's easier.
Oh, okay. I think I missed the. Actually, yeah, I missed something and it did something wrong. So disregard.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that was another strength good Sean solved there.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go straight into the second one now. This solve, Sean had really high TPS on his blocks. He paused and locked up a little bit on CMLL LSE. And another comments I wrote down here is that his blocks were pretty inefficient, but he turned fast to make up for it. So let's see this one. He's solving blue-white. So we see this matched up in the back. We see these two pieces and these two. So what he does is he makes a kind of half line again with these two in the back there. So he does U prime RY to put those in the back, and then solves that pair first like this. Make that half line.
Yeah, so do you know why he, like, when I look at this, it's a really weird way to solve that corner. Do you know what like, is there a special reason that he was solving it that way?
I don't think there was a special reason because it doesn't really set up the second pair all too well either. I really think this was I don't remember exactly, but I think he just took too long in inspection, kind of panicked a little bit, and just went with whatever solution came to him. The other possibility is that he just knows it's an easy high TPS solution that he can get done pretty quickly. And I mean, it's not a bad solve. It's a 9-second solve, but there's a lot more efficient ways of solving that block. But yeah, so after this, oh, I mean, I might have messed this up. I'm actually going to bring a second cube here.
Because looking at the solution he had, it's almost like maybe even like a less efficient beginner kind of a solution, it seems.
Yeah, so U prime R wide, U prime. Yeah, so then I guess he splits these pieces up and then solves that. Because maybe he was trying to set these edges up, this edge and corner up like this, but doesn't really make that all that much sense to me. And then these two he pairs like this. And then here's the influencing, right? So you notice this is DR edge, and then instead of just solving this with F prime, he does an R2 to bring this up so they can orient and be on the top. Then for his second block, U prime matches this up, and he wants to bring this corner to not be white on top and not be stuck on the bottom. So he does RUR. Yeah, and then I guess this is also a very inefficient solution, so there's a lot of unnecessary moves there. But maybe he was just turning fast and a little panicked. So that's the second square. Then here, the advantage of this case right here is that when the corner's solved, you can already see the CMLL case, so it's very quick to just solve it and then go straight into the algorithm. Then here we see we have these two misoriented and the blue one is in the back. So this is a really good EOLR case because when you do M2, the blue one is solved in the opposite slot. So blue and green are opposites. And that's a really good case because then when you do this, they solve directly into their spots and easy finish. So this solve, obviously it's the worst solve in the average. He did a lot of inefficient things in block building, but then his high TPS ended up making up for it.
Uh-huh.
All right, for solve 3, he had a very fluid and consistent turning throughout the whole solve, which makes sense because it's 7 seconds. So let's get into it now. So Y prime Z2. So here he's solving the yellow bottom green block because we see this pair right here and we see these two are easy to pair up. So this is a very efficient block. And then we can track DR, which is right here.
Very good scrambling.
Very good scramble for sure. This is also going to come down here. So U F prime to solve that, U R prime, U2 to solve these two, and then in the back like that.
Yeah, for this, when I see this block, I would think of just doing like a B prime, U prime, B. But instead he U R prime, U2, B. What is your thought on that?
Yeah, so in general, you don't want to do two back moves. Like a B prime, U prime, B is a little bit slow. So I would honestly do either his solution, R prime, U2, B, or I'd maybe do the opposite, like do a U2 and then pair them with M prime and then do R wide back prime. Or sorry, from the same angle, instead of R prime, U2, B, I'd be more inclined to do R wide M prime back prime because I prefer back prime instead of back.
But in his case, the solution also sets up the next edge for the second block, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's maybe why he chose it. This sets up really nicely. Then this solution here, U prime R wide prime because he wanted to split this one up, and this is just a standard CFOP case where these two are oriented relative to each other. And lastly, he has this pair, so pretty standard Rouxvolution there, and then very high TPS CMLL,
which is a must in the world record.
Exactly. And then again, he has EOLR, so this and this, you can line them up like this, and then put them both on the bottom, and then pretty easy finish here, just like that. All right, moving on to solve 4. We're almost done here.
So I think that like seeing his solves so far, I think one of his big strengths is really, from my point of view anyways, his second block and like the transition from the first to the second block.
Yeah, so his fluidity is really solid. There's not very many pauses in his solves, and when they are, he recovers very quickly from them, and they're not that big of an issue. I think the only weakness I've seen, a major one, was in that second solve, the inefficiencies in the block building. But other than that, his fluidity is a great strength there. Okay, so fourth solve here. This is also a national record single, 6.60. So we're solving the red-white block. So this is a D move away. This pair's already made. The other pair's right here. This one I thought was an incredibly creative first block solution. I think this is pretty much what made this world record. It's seeing the first block solution here. So he does a D move to solve that. Then he solves this pair in a way that sets up the other pair really nicely. So he does DU, RR, U prime, B. And that sets up this pair to be 2 moves. I think that's genius. I would not have seen that. I think that's just really smart stuff. So I applaud Sean for that. That's really great. For the second block, if you see that this is solved, so he goes like this to pair these two up at the same time, U prime R, and then just inserts them at the front. And we can see now that, again, this corner solves, so we already know what the CMLL is. We can just do this easy solution for that pair. And then typically my algorithms from this angle, I don't really know this algorithm, but it's also very nice. So that's an example of some new algorithms people have come up with that I haven't seen before. Again, we have some case like this where you can do EOLR. So separating them, again, you have this in the opposite slot. Then,
so sorry.
Yep.
For that EOLR, like I think maybe it's the standard alg that I would have done like MUM or something, right?
Yep. So from that angle,
M.
Let's see if I can undo it. I don't think I can undo it. But
okay.
Yeah, MU prime M would have also done the exact same EOLR. He just chose to do it from a different angle. I would prefer MU prime M since you're skipping a move and you're avoiding a U instead of a U prime. But yeah, that solve I think was the most incredible out of all of them, obviously because it's the fastest, but also because of that super creative solution. Okay, we're on the last solve now. This one was, again, the world record making solve, the 7.6. So we're doing the blue block again, my favorite, orange in the back. We're going to make a line again. So if you learn anything from this, it's that the horizontal lines are important. So these two pieces pair up with RF prime, and then we're going to do D2, but he's going to also insert more moves in between that. So instead of RF prime, he's going to do RD R prime. And then this is going to swing around here, and then we're going to have to be able to solve that. So RD R prime D, and that solves that. Then these two are set up nicely to do MU prime F like this. Then we have the first block, and then the second square, he does.
I think there's a U prime before that F.
There's a U prime before the F.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Set up
my bad. Yeah. So he also does DR influencing as well. Again, if you do an F move here, you mess this one up. If you do a U prime before the F move, then you preserve the orientation and set up a much better second block. So again, tracking this is very important, so you can avoid messing it up. So RR to separate these two, and then pair them up in the front, pretty standard. Solve them in the back. Then you have these two, another easy pair. So this was an easy second block. CMLL, he did a really good job at recognizing it from this angle. Solves it very fluidly, like this. And lastly, again, you have a very similar EOLR case. So you can either solve this from this angle, M prime, U prime, M prime, or from this angle, M prime, U, M prime. So here he leaves it there and does the U prime, does M instead of M prime, but I guess it doesn't make that much of a difference. Solve them in the back, and then a 4C skip to get that world record.
Crazy.
Yeah, so overall, I think this was a wonderful average. The last 3 solves were like almost flawless, pretty much flawless, I'd say. Solve 2, again, issues with efficiency, but I think those last 3 were incredible.
Yeah, crazy solves. Crazy solves from Sean. Got some nice skill as well as some luck. Perfect combination for a world record.
Exactly. All right. I guess we'll save maybe like 4 minutes here for questions before we end it.
Yeah, so please ask some questions here. I think we've actually pretty much gotten like through all the questions that were in here. I think there's one maybe. What do you think Sean's world record, how it'll affect the Rouxvolution?
Yeah, I think it's going to have a really positive impact. I think his channel is going to grow a lot. People are going to start looking up to him, trying to improve at one-handed, and they'll realize like, wow, like a point 0.6 difference between Roux and CFOP there. I think is really going to push one-handed forward for Roux there.
Just like Cube Head saying he'll learn Roux. I think whether he'll learn it or not, I don't know. I think he'll still make have a bit of an influence there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and how much do you think that he planned an inspection? I guess that would go with how much you know Sean, and what.
Yeah, I mean, given that he influenced DR in 3 out of 5 solves, I definitely think he planned, knew where DR was going to be and planned that far to do that influencing in inspection, except everywhere except solve 2. But other than that, I definitely think he planned first block plus DR in all of them and planned to do those influencing, just little additions of the U prime or the R in inspection, and that's what helped them be so fluid going forward into the second block.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that I think when you were at your peak with Roux, you'd also plan to a similar level. I know we used to do some team blind solves where you'd plan a crazy amount of inspection, like first 2 blocks sometimes even, or that.
Yeah, so I think I got to some level where like 70% of the time I was planning first block plus DR, and then maybe 30% of the time on good sessions I was planning first block plus DR plus I'd know where the pair would be for the first pair.
Okay. So it's not as crazy as I thought then. It's
no,
not like
it wouldn't be fully like seeing the solution. It would be like I know where the pieces are going to end up, and like if it goes as I plan, I know pretty quickly how to do it. But if the other pair ends up nicer, I'll switch to doing that. It's more just looking. It's kind of like looking ahead and planning for it before it happens, not necessarily knowing exactly what moves I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that that'll be like the future, trying to like looking further and further ahead? Like I know in CFOP we have some solvers doing almost full F2L in inspection. Do you think like full first 2 blocks will eventually become a normal thing? Do you think there's a lot of benefit into trying to plan everything in advance, or with Roux maybe much?
I'm not sure if full first 2 blocks will become standard. I think in 15 seconds, it's more important to find a good first block in continuation. But I think the future is going to be like first block plus planning the DR influencing plus knowing where your first pair is going to be.
And it's definitely harder in Roux, I'd say, to go that far ahead because of a lot of the different special, like the F, B, M moves. They influence a lot of different pieces that you wouldn't see in F2L, where usually you can just like RUR prime. It doesn't affect that many F2L pieces.
Yeah, so I guess there's a lot more moving parts there.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, you get diminishing returns, right? If you plan a bit too far, you don't leave room for like unexpected. What if the other pair is like 1 move away?
Yeah, exactly.
So being a bit flexible there is also beneficial.
Now, one last thing I want to mention as well, which we haven't really mentioned in the stream yet, is particularly regarding like Roux and one-handed top solvers. We haven't really mentioned Fami. I know that at least for a while he hasn't really seemed to be very active, very like in the last few months. But I know for a while he was definitely like the top Roux solver. What is your impression? What are your impressions on that and on him and what he's doing?
Yeah, I think
spoke to him a lot.
Yeah, I've spoke to him a couple times. I think we did like a Roux group, like one Christmas, we did a Roux group session where there was like 5 or 10 of us in a video call and we were just solving and talking. He's a fun guy to chat to. I've never met him. I hope I get to meet him someday. I think he can't compete that much. I think he was on and off with cubing for a while, dealing with some life issues or something that was going on with him. But last I heard, he was back to it and then took a break again. But I really hope he's going to get back to competing at some point. We'd love to see some great records from him. And yeah, just look forward to meeting him someday.
Yeah, because I'd say he's still like a fourth, like what is it called, a front runner to get a one-handed world record. Even two-handed, he's shown that he's really, really good.
Yeah, for sure.
Low 5s or something like that, or
yeah, something like that. He's very fast at both events.
Yeah, so I think it would be really cool if we could see some more from him and see where he can bring Roux as well. Him, Sean, maybe someone else who's in the stream right now
Yeah, you never know.
going up, especially if Kian does some coaching, right? All right, so I think that will be it for today. We've already gone past by 15 minutes. So I want to say, like, Kian, really thanks so much for joining the stream today. It was so great to talk to you. We haven't spoken in a while, and also to learn a lot more about Roux. I'm sure that hopefully we can kind of spread the message about Roux and how amazing it is. Get some people excited, as I have been also lately.
Oh yeah, thank you so much for having me on, Antoine. It was great to chat with you. It's been a while. I know we saw each other a couple months ago, but it's great to catch up. And yeah, I hope people learn a thing or two about Roux from this. And looking forward to seeing the Roux community grow, and everything you're doing with the Cubing Life Academy is great. I hope to see that grow as well.
Yeah, and so we'll put the links to the things that we talked about in the description. I'll also try and edit a few videos out, like for the reconstructions and such. And yeah, so everybody, thank you very much for joining once again. If you're interested in cubing courses, whether it's for 3x3, blind, clock, maybe in the future with Roux, then definitely check out Cubing Life. And if you considering enrolling in one of our courses, then definitely use Kian's coupon. So Kian CLA5, you get 5% off. And also for our live streams going forward, we're going to take a break next week. So no live stream next week, but then after that, we are hoping to have a weekly live stream going forward with that. I definitely check the website and check our Instagram. We also have an Instagram at Cubing Life Academy. So that's a lot where we post a lot of our information, what we're going on, and live streams. We also have a Discord at the Cubing Life Academy. So I will also put a link to that in the description. You can check out our Discord to get the up-to-date information to join our live streams. We have Kian on this week, and we'll have some more guests, some of our teachers, and some other guests coming up in future live streams. So definitely stay tuned for that. And once again, thank you very much, Kian. It was really an honor to have you today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Okay, so I think that concludes our stream. Once again, thank you for everyone for joining. If you have any other questions, you can definitely contact us, leave a comment, leave a message, whatever. So thank you very much. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
And once again, thank you very much, Kian. It was really an honor. All right, so the stream is ended here.
All right, sweet. I've got to go. So thanks
Yeah,
so much
no
again.